not only is every sort of melon in the world historically have its origin in Uzbekistan, but like every apple in the world basically comes from this like kind of Garden of Eden in Kazakhstan.
Welcome to the Good Food Podcast with me, Samuel Goldsmith. Today we're talking about food as memory, comfort and connection. My guest is Anna Ansari, whose cooking is rooted in home, family and instinct rather than rules or performance. Anna's food celebrates flavour without the fuss, the kind of cooking that's generous, intuitive and deeply personal. This is a conversation about her new book, Silk Roads, the stories our food carries and how cooking can be a way of feeling grounded and connected, both to ourselves and to each other. Welcome, Anna, to the Good Food Podcast.
Hi, Sam. Thank you so much for having me.
Not at all. Well, I'd love to know first what you had for dinner last night.
Ooh, I made some nasi goreng.
Oh, Nice.
Yeah.
And how, for people that might not have had it before, how do you make it?
So it's an Indonesian / Malaysian / just Southeast Asian. I guess nasi goreng actually means fried rice.
Okay.
In a language when I don't remember which one, but I just realized this. I don't know, but it's a fried rice made with usually shallots and galangal ginger and a sweet soy sauce called kepap manis.
Yes.
And what else did I put in it? I put a little fish sauce, and then it's often served with a fried egg.
Does it have it's topped with
Yeah,
a fried
egg.
egg?
And I put some green beans in mine because it was just me and my son, and he really likes green beans. And then we had some raw cucumbers with it as well.
That's a fancy. It's quite quick, I guess,
It's
isn't
really
it? As long as you've
quick.
got everything.
If you have everything, and the beauty of fried rice is that if you have leftover rice from the night before, you can just make it into any kind of fried rice. I often do. If I have leftover Indian food, I'll kind of make an Indian flavored fried rice, or same with Iranian rice. I just like, I love a fried rice, but I was really feeling the nasi goreng. I wanted that like crispy edged fried egg, not just, your regular like English breakfast fried egg, but the one that's like almost like latticey on the edges.
How do you get that? You just cook it for a bit longer?
You actually, I'd say you cook it for a bit shorter.
On a higher temperature.
Higher, and I do it in the wok. So there's hot oil in there, and then you just crack the egg in it, and it kind of like sizzles up, and I actually maybe burned myself a little bit with some oil splatters last night, actually. But then you can just spoon some hot oil over the top of it to kind of get the whites on top cooked, but not rather than flipping it over. But it's like boom, boom, boom. If you've got a hot wok and hot oil in there.
Fab.
Yeah.
So do you normally do it in the same pan you fry the rice in? But
So I did the rice. Exactly. I mean, you could do it ahead of time, but I feel like you need more oil for the egg than you do for the rice itself. So I made the rice, took it off, added a little bit more oil to the pan, onto the wok, and then made the eggs, and then Bob's your uncle.
Well, because I was thinking I don't want another pan to wash up. So
No.
I
I love the wok.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and now you're here mostly to talk about your new book, Silk Roads.
Silk Roads.
So can you tell us a little bit about if you were going to sum it up?
If I was going to sum it up, I really do think that its subtitle tells
It
you
does.
so much. It is, in fact, a Flavor Odyssey with recipes, because it's a cookbook from Baku to Beijing. So it's a cookbook. There's 90 recipes about the foods of basically between the Mediterranean and like the North Sea in China, the North China Sea. It is all about the way in which food, flavor, ingredients, dishes, people, ideas, goods have been transported and moved across Central Asia and the Caucasus and into East Asia over the titular Silk Roads, sort of trade network of old and, of current day.
Yeah, because it's basically because it's the Silk Roads are quite known. People know about them, but not necessarily what it is.
No, I mean, I think that Silk Roads was using the name Silk Roads and the geographic kind of span of Silk Roads was a way of kind of orienting the book and keeping it, so I'm like, oh, well, I don't need to talk about like Southeast Asia now or Russia necessarily because he's like, how, food has traveled across the world, everywhere. So how do we kind of want to bring these things together in a more comprehensive but like focused way? And the Silk Roads to me made a lot of sense because specifically I wanted to talk about this area because of my own personal background as an Iranian American and someone who has a background in Chinese studies to sort of bridge those two regions and I'm also a trade lawyer by training,
Yeah.
customs and trade lawyer. So, the idea of trade is really what appealed to me, and particularly going back to Tang Dynasty China and the way in which specifically food and goods moved across Asia on these networks of trade routes. The Silk Roads was not just a road, it was a network of paths of, tracks in the sand kind of thing.
How much of it did you see?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, I've been all over China. I can't even. I've been all over China. I've been to the ends of the China and back. But I've spent a lot of time in Uzbekistan as well, in Georgia, in Azerbaijan.
Wow.
And then I've spent some time in Turkey. And I don't know if you went to the British Museum's Silk Roads exhibit last year.
No.
They traced the Silk Roads from Korea all the way through sub-Saharan Africa into Sweden and then to Sutton Hoo. So you've been,
I've been on the Silk
you've
Road.
been on the Silk Road. Yeah, no, they were able to sort of carbon date the jewels found in Sutton Hoo to show that they actually came from India. Carbon date and sort of geographically orient so that they could, though they obviously, no one knows, how all this stuff got to England. Basically, the gemstones there came from India, and the only way in which they could have arrived on English shores was somehow to go through these trade networks.
Wow.
So yes, you've been to we've all,
But I've never been to the British Museum. It's bad, isn't it?
No,
I've never been to the British Museum.
Oh my goodness,
That's
I'm a member.
So bad.
And that's the kind of, I think the beautiful thing about the terminology Silk Roads is that it can actually be, I think some people can imagine it as this like point A to point B kind of thing, Rome to Xi'an. But, curators at the British Museum can tell you like, no, we're also going to Suffolk.
Yeah.
Suffolk, is that where Sutton Hoo is?
I've
Suffolk,
no
Norfolk.
idea,
It's
but
up there. It's by Pump Street Chocolates.
Oh, okay.
It's up that
yes.
way.
Yeah, I know it now.
But so it can really be almost an imagined terminology for the way in which things have moved.
Gosh. And I guess you'd have splinters off of that as well.
100%.
Presumably. It's not just one.
No, not at
one
all.
road.
I like to imagine it in my mind's eye. When you're looking down at a map of like a riverbed and how there's like the tentacles of a river can tend to sort of spread out and then kind of just get narrower and narrower as you go along.
Yeah.
I'm like, oh, that's kind of like the Silk Roads because it went from here to there and then kind of dwindled here and it would stop. And then suddenly you get to the sea. And there are historians who talk about the maritime Silk Roads and the way they went, around India and the like Saudi coast and into Africa as well. So it's a really like large idea.
Yeah.
And in my book, I really tried to narrow it while simultaneously keeping it open, but narrow it for my own.
I think that's the great thing about it as well. If like anyone cooking from it is you're getting such a breadth of recipes. So it's not all going to be sort of feel like it's from the same culture. But did you find any similarities across? Because I imagine we can find lots of differences, but were there lots of similarities between?
Yeah, that was actually kind of my starting point with this was the similarities and as sort of the culinary and kind of historical thesis or viewpoint that I would also like, readers and cooks to come across from Silk Roads is more about the similarities and how you can have a dish from northern China that tastes somewhat similar in flavoring to something from Azerbaijan. And that is because of the way in which the ingredients have traveled and been used by these different cultures, different culinary traditions, but have these kind of like flavor similarities. That there are these ways in which we are, as people, more similar than we are different. And this comes across in the recipes in Silk Roads and on the ground on these, Silk Roads across Asia. I first had Uyghur food, which is the Uyghurs are a Turkic minority in present-day China and Xinjiang province generally. I first had Uyghur food when I was a teenager in Beijing in the late 1990s and really was struck by the fact that it didn't taste to me like Chinese food that I knew of it as Chinese food. And obviously Chinese food is not a monolith at all. There's so many different regional variations and then you've got British Chinese food, American Chinese food. Like there's so much to be said about Chinese food. But this Uyghur food was not anything I had ever tasted in Beijing or in Shanghai or in, suburban Michigan. but tasted so familiar to me. And it turned out that the reason it was so familiar tasting to me is because it was using lamb and it was using cumin. And it was using these Turkic kind of flavors that I had grown up with in an Azerbaijani Iranian household in Michigan. So it was like, wait a second, why am I eating this thing so far away from home that doesn't taste like Chinese food, but it doesn't really, it's not Iranian food either. It's not Azeri food, but it tastes so similar. And it was realizing then, well, the reason it tastes so similar is because the Uyghurs are Turkic people, Azeris are Turkic people, and there's this shared heritage, culinarily speaking, that has lasted for centuries.
What did you expect? Well, yeah, I guess what did you expect to find when you set out on the journey?
Which one? Which journey? Like 1998
of writing the book.
I mean, I think I hoped to find, the connections that I found between these regions, between these cuisines, but I don't think I imagined the sort of lengths to which things were connected. Like I didn't realize, I was more surprised. I found what I was looking for, but then I found more.
Yeah.
Like I was just like, I don't understand. So you're telling me that not only is every sort of melon in the world historically have its origin in Uzbekistan, but like every apple in the world basically comes from this like kind of Garden of Eden in Kazakhstan.
Wow.
Yeah. Every apple in the world can be traced back to Kazakhstan.
Golly. And we think of them as such a British...
Such a British thing. I mean, in America, we call it, say, as American as apple pie.
Yeah, of course.
There's this myth of Johnny Appleseed planting apples around America. But the actual fruit itself originated in Central Asia, in the heart of this region, and was just sort of spread across the world by, first of all, animals, and then travelers and traders. I mean, you think about how easy it is to take an apple with you.
Yeah,
and how, unlike soft fruits, unlike citrus fruits, right? Like an apple actually lasts for a while. And then the seeds you can plant pretty easily.
Yeah.
Right?
And I like my dad, he has a apple tree and he wraps them up in paper, stores them, and they last for, like 6 months or so.
No,
Probably
exactly. It's one of the most transportable and like long-lasting fruits. And so it basically, people were like, wait, this is delicious. I'm going to take it with me. Yeah. And people kept doing that further and further and further until it reached Europe, and then it reached, Great Britain. And
where we say it's our own.
And we say it's our own, and it is our own. Like, and that's the thing. It's like apples are Americans' apple pie or whatever, and British apples are extremely British. But we don't necessarily realize where they have their real original roots, and maybe we don't need to. But I also think it's really fun to find these things out.
Yeah, absolutely.
And to realize that we have been, as a species, humans, connected for centuries, for like millennia, right? Like, and we remain connected through these foodways, even when we don't realize it.
Yes, I see and trade, I guess, is the reason it happens.
And trade is the reason it happens.
And is there anything that you kind of set out thinking that you knew, and then actually, when you did the research or through the many times you've traveled, actually it was completely wrong?
No, I don't think that there was something that I thought I knew and that I didn't end up finding out. There were things that I didn't investigate because I didn't necessarily think they were worth. Like,
You've got so many pages, right?
You only got so many pages, but like, for instance, I think a lot of people like to talk about, Marco Polo and whether he brought the noodle from Asia to Italy, and that's where spaghetti came from. And that kind of thing I just didn't look into because I realized like there's not an answer to this. No. And like, why does, for instance, the Georgian khingali dumpling look so similar to a xiaolongbao from Shanghai, the Chinese dumpling? Like, do we need to investigate the origins of these things, or do we need to just say, listen, human beings have been wrapping food in dough across the world. And same thing with like making noodles. Like, people make noodles everywhere. I don't need to find out. I don't need to investigate that. So it wasn't that there were things that that were proven wrong, but I just was not willing to go down some rabbit holes.
And I guess some things is just kind of inevitable. Either somebody's traveled and then they've taught somebody else, or, as would likely happen, two people with a similar brain have created a similar product in a different place.
Yes, 100%. I mean, there were things like, I didn't know, for instance, that like cornmeal was so popular in Georgia, and then kind of, it's still to this day, it came in via, the Columbian Exchange and through the Ottoman Empire, but then kind of like petered out when it got to the like higher mountains and never didn't make its way into Iran and, Azerbaijan as much.
There's a lot from like certain people in, I think, certainly in food writing circles, where authenticity is really important. And I feel like what's interesting about what you said, like with apples, for example, is that actually what we think might be authentic potentially might not actually be. I mean, it's authentic to that person in that place, but actually it could well have been even like authentic somewhere else.
100%. And I think that's really important. I think like the notion of authenticity itself is a fluid one, right? Like just because you think of like a Bramley apple as very particularly British, doesn't mean that it's not. Like it is authentic to the UK, but it's also, I think, nice and somewhat important, not in every occasion, but like somewhat important to also recognize like, yeah, it could be authentic to somewhere else.
Yes.
It is authentic somewhere else. It originates in somewhere else. And that doesn't make anything less valid or less real. But it's worth recognizing.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I think for a lot of most of the recipes in here are my interpretations of either very traditional recipes across these regions or ones that are traditional to my own family.
Yeah.
And I specifically set out to kind of not make a cookbook that was meant to be like a definitive encyclopedia because everyone has a different version of something. Like every single family has a different version of something.
Yeah.
Like, like I actually used for some of the titles of the recipes, a Georgian salad and Uzbek plov because it's just one of many.
Yeah.
Right. Like there is not one definitive Uzbek plov.
Yeah.
And there's not one in Uzbekistan. There's not one in a city in Uzbekistan. There can be multiples.
Now,
and that's the same for everything.
And tell us about plov, because I'm really interested by plov because I went to a talk with Caroline Eden and she was talking about plov.
It's the best
and
thing in the world.
And then there's a place in London that serves it. And I still haven't been.
There are actually a number of places. I feel like it's a thing. Or maybe I'm just attuned to it.
It's because you know about it.
I know, I think it might be because I know
uncultured,
about
uneducated people like me have no idea.
There are like a number of Central Asian restaurants, an increasing number of Central Asian restaurants, specifically Uzbek ones in London. And plov basically is rice. Plov is the word rice, I think in Russian. I mean, but it's where our word pilaf comes from. In Iranian and Farsi, you say polo.
Yes.
I think there are a number of other languages that have a sort of play etymologically on that same term. But plov means rice. And in Uzbekistan, Uzbek plov has to have basically rice, carrots, onions, cumin, and oil.
Okay.
Everything else is up for grabs. These were the 5 ingredients that were meant to be in there. And so every plov you'll find in Uzbekistan will have those, but also other things. Like you can have quails, you can have chickpeas, you can have beef, you can have lamb, you can have hard-boiled eggs, you can have no meat, you can add, whatever you want.
And what would your perfect plov be?
Well, my perfect plov is my plov.
Yeah,
my
good.
Uzbek plov, which is rice, onions, oil, carrots, cumin, salt, pepper, chickpeas, some either barberries or cranberries or apricots for a little added sweetness, and a sort of medium grain rice, slow cooked on the stovetop, and then all mixed together, and just. I mean, it's those ingredients, right? Like those are nothing I've said is sort of crazy out there.
Cranberries maybe for the Brits thinking Christmas.
Apricots,
obviously it's
we've
not
got.
actually.
But, these are all really basic ingredients and it's the way they are cooked and they come together. Like you couldn't imagine that you could, I couldn't imagine when I went into like first having Uzbek plov that you could get so much sweetness out of the carrot that it could really like impart so much flavor because it's slow cooked and you have this bite and you're like, wait, really? That's all that's in there? And so, I think the beauty of the recipes in Silk Roads and across these regions of Asia are the way in which these sort of familiar ingredients can come together in surprising ways.
Sure.
That and like very simply cooked ways as well. But just like, slowly cooking that carrot, you're suddenly like, why does this taste like sugar? Oh wait, because
changes it. Yeah.
Exactly. And it's not used to what we're not sticking the little carrot baton in a hummus.
Well,
you don't have the sweetness there. And
or
you have that
we've
lovely
not covered
crunch.
it in like maple syrup. If that's not how we've got the sweetness, roasted it for our
that's true.
roast dinner.
Yeah,
it's
so
a natural
sweetness. It's the natural sweetness,
Yeah.
and it's really like beautifully surprising. And I mean, I could eat rice every day. I mean, I had some last night. And I'll probably have some tonight. No, tonight I'm out for dinner. But I eat rice like nonstop. I love rice. And, plov is an Uzbek version of, a Uyghur version, which is a version of like an Iranian version. They're all so related that it's so beautiful to see to me.
I guess that may well have traveled along.
Well, rice, I mean, there are two competing origins for where rice itself came from. One being the Indus Valley in India, and the other the Yangtze Valley in China. And there are these, and I write about it in the introductory essay. I'm like, listen, I am not gonna like pull apart where rice is from because no one agrees on this. I like, here are your options. And like, all we can say, pick a team. Also, it's all good.
Yeah.
And
maybe both.
Maybe both. Because like you're saying, maybe this is a human inclination to do this with this ingredient. Also, it's very possible that these grains of rice were, cultivated at the same time in two different places. And that's fine. And that's great. And it doesn't make either of the stories less valid.
Yeah, absolutely.
But also it doesn't even matter for our purposes.
Yeah.
All we need to know is that rice has been around for a really long time.
Yeah.
And it traveled out of this area, whether it was that it came from India and went into China, or China into India, or India into Uzbek. It doesn't really matter. It's still from this region. And we are eating it today in England, in Scotland, and Wales because of this area.
Sure. Before you went into food writing, you were saying you worked as a trade lawyer. And did you, like before that, did your love of food start before that? Or did it come during, or did you always grow up with like food being really important?
Growing up in an Iranian American household, we're big into parties.
Okay.
Specifically, barbecues in the summertime.
Yeah.
Nowruz parties, Iranian Persian New Year in March, massive parties. And they're all food oriented.
Okay.
It's like, take a Christmas dinner here and then invite 60 more people and like triple the size of your dining room table kind of thing. So my household, growing up, we were big entertainers. And that sort of carried on in my life in my 20s, even like living in New York City in a tiny little apartment. I would have these parties where I would just, slow roast a pork shoulder and be like, come on over, we're having a pulled pork party, but I'm not providing the booze.
I've
like
never
you show
heard
up
of a pulled pork party.
Really?
But now I have.
Oh yeah, no, I would like literally just make these giant pork shoulders and be like, come on over. But it was also like a cost thing. It was cheaper for me to buy and provide food to my friends than to go to the liquor store and buy beer and wine and spirits.
That they would bring.
Yeah. So I'd be like,
And leave it
ice.
behind.
I've got ice in my bathtub. Drop the Pabst Blue Ribbons in there and come on over to the dining room and have, a beef tenderloin sliced on like a corn salad.
Nice.
Or, one summer I did a big shrimp cocktail party and, barbecue sliders. But I've always been into entertaining, if not necessarily cooking for myself or my family. And that really changed, I think, when I moved to the UK. Actually, I've been in the UK since 2013.
Okay, yeah.
And I've been in London since 2015.
So you're in Scotland before.
I was in Scotland.
Yeah.
I'm married to a Scotsman. Got a little British boy who says he's English. And my husband's like, but I'm Scottish and your mom's American. And Theo's like, but I was born in England. We're like, well, we'll deal with this down the line.
Yeah, we'll fight this out later.
It's very cute. He's like, but mommy. But I really started cooking a lot when I moved to the UK, like more for me and my husband. And it was, I think, then when Theo came along, a way of sort of feeding my kid what I wanted him to be eating, from a health perspective.
Was it also in order to sort of taste the flavors that you kind of missed from
Yeah, it
home?
was really, so I've always cooked Iranian food since probably university as that kind of like move out of the house inclination to like get your home food back into your belly that the cafeteria does not provide. But it really, especially when it came to my son, was I really wanted him to be eating sort of these Iranian flavors, and also a lot of the Iranian stews you cook down so soft that it was really good for like under 2-year-olds with these like teething, because the beef just kind of like turns into this soft, beautiful stew, or the lamb or chicken, and so it was really easy for him to eat and very flavorful without being hot spicy.
Yeah.
You know, you've got a lot of spices, a lot of herbs, and there are a lot of flavor. So I really wanted him to become comfortable with those things from a young age. And also I told my husband, I was like, listen, we live in the UK. I love it here. And I love the idea of a Sunday dinner and Sunday roast, but let's let our Sunday dinners be Iranian food.
Nice.
And kind of have that, because, you know, oftentimes it takes a long time to cook these things.
Yeah.
And, you know, I could, like I said, I could eat rice every day, but I don't necessarily want to. But so I'd make a big, like, rice and Iranian braise and a salad and say, like, that's my Sunday dinner. Yeah. Let us, you know, incorporate these true traditions into our household, into our blended cultural family. Yeah. So I'll make Iranian food often on a Sunday now instead of, you know, a roast chicken, which I love.
Yorkshire pudding in sight?
What?
No Yorkshire pudding in sight?
I mean, I love a Yorkshire pudding, but no. That's Ed's. That's my husband's purview.
Okay.
He makes a really good Yorkshire pudding.
Oh,
Even his parents are
really?
like, Edward.
Oh, I wonder where he learned that from.
I think he's just, you know, I have to say, I think, you know, to my husband's credit, he says he cooked before he met me, and I'm not fully convinced of that. However, when he cooks now, I think he does a really good job. And oftentimes I think it's because he's trying to be like, see, sweetheart, I can do this.
Yeah, I didn't lie to you.
No, and he'll like carve all of our meats, and he does the gravies, and he makes the Yorkshire pudding. But
very good.
Yeah, no, I was quite ill on my son's birthday this year in the end of December, and Ed just like took over and made the whole beautiful dinner, and it was excellent. And I was so pleased. But yeah.
Very nice.
Yeah.
Well, I could talk about this all day, but we need to move on to our other sections. Right. So our next section is favourite dish.
Ooh.
So do you have... Actually, I'm not going to say do you have, because you might say no, and that would just be over really quickly. What would your favourite dish of all time be?
Of all time?
Yeah, all time. I know it's a really annoying question, but it's tough.
Oh, my favorite dish of all time is probably tagine. I say that because I have a recipe for it in Silk Roads, and in the head note I say that it's my death row dish. Yeah. So I guess if something's the last thing I would eat on earth, I suppose that means it's my favorite.
I would say, if you've said it.
Yeah. I mean, it's not technically the same thing, but I do love it, like kind of more than anything.
So tell us about it.
So it is an Iranian rice dish that is kind of shaped, it kind of ends up coming out of the oven or the stovetop like a cake. It is you use yogurts and saffron and egg yolks to kind of bind the rice together in almost like a drier rice pudding. Yeah. You know, it's not like mushy. It's a hardened kind of cake. Not hard, but it's like a set cake, a set rice dish. And then it's often filled with lamb or in more traditional, on my recipe, chicken. Nice. I have onions in mine as well. And it's just this kind of like beautifully soft, comforting saffron. There's so much saffron. It's like literally, it's eggs, rice, chicken, onion, saffron, yogurt, maybe some garlic, salt and pepper. Like that's it. And it just comes together in what I find to be the most satisfying, comforting way. And I like deeply, deeply love it. And when my son was 2 years old, I stuck birthday candles on it and gave it to him. I was like, you don't need a chocolate cake. Like, I'm going to give you a tagine.
This is what you're having.
Yeah. And I, it's often topped with like candied barberries. Yeah. And some flaked almonds or pistachio nibs. Nice. And to give it that kind of like a little bit of sweetness to the kind of very savory, comforting nature of the dish itself. And it is really spectacular and also really easy.
I think I have had it before.
Yeah, no, I'm sure you have.
Because I love rice too. It's just got all the best flavors.
No, and I mean, I include a recipe for tagine because it is one of my absolute favorite dishes in the world. In Silk Roads, even though I try to kind of keep myself from repeating recipes that you can find elsewhere. You can, you've had tagine. You can get it at a number of Persian restaurants. Like Samin Nosrat has a gorgeous recipe for it on New York Times. I'm sure there's one on BBC.
Well, maybe.
Like, no, I'm really like it's such a common dish. Like Anissa Hello has a beautiful one with lamb. And I don't have a ton of those recipes that you can find all
Sure.
around. But because it is one that is my favorite and means so much to me.
And it speaks to the places
It
still,
speaks to the place, and it speaks to sort of my culinary understanding of Iran and Iranian food, and I just honestly love it
Fabulous.
so much.
Right, we're going to move on to culinary confessions.
Oh,
First one is, what is the one dish that you cook better than anyone else?
tagine. even like family members here, they're like,
Oh, really?
Even my dad will be like, your tagine is the best tagine.
Oh,
and
that's
I feel
big
like
deal.
I know that's coming from an almost 90-year-old Iranian.
Yeah, well done. What is your biggest cooking disaster?
Oh, good Lord. What isn't gnocchi.
Oh.
Gnocchi during lockdown. I tried to make gnocchi and I failed miserably, and I had I don't know. It's not supposed to be
maybe
hard.
the wrong
What
type
did I
of potato,
do?
maybe?
That's what I'm wondering. It was like we were getting those veg boxes delivered, and I just had it was like between cabbages and potatoes. I had just every week just a stack just kept getting larger and larger, and I was like, what am I going to do with all these potatoes? Like, there's only so much mash you can do. And I tried to make gnocchi one, and I followed like Marcella Hazan's recipe or something like that, and it was almost inedible. I don't know what I did. But even my husband, who's like, I'll eat anything, basically was like, oh, I can't eat that. I think it was maybe the wrong kind of potatoes. Because it was they just didn't stay together in that lovely little gnocchi package. And I was like, this is meant to be easy. And I can make pasta. I'm a good cook. Failed.
Sometimes I think something just happens.
Oh, something just happens.
There's something in the air.
Also, sometimes I think there are things that I'm just not meant to cook at home. Like a gnocchi is one of them. I have actually no interest in ever trying again.
You can get some quite good ready-made
Get really
ones.
good ready-made gnocchi. Why?
Yeah. Why would you bother?
No.
Have you ever served something ready-made and pretended you made it yourself?
Oh, no. No.
Wouldn't do
I'm
that.
very, 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 very honest about what I do. I'm like, this cake came from Tesco. Enjoy.
If your personality were a flavour of ice cream, what would it be and why?
Mint chocolate chip.
Oh. For why?
A little fun.
Okay, yeah,
a little
nice.
different.
Yeah.
A little tart and tangy, but sweet at the same time. I don't know.
Very nice.
I love a mint chocolate chip. Yeah.
You're opening a themed restaurant based on your life. What is it called and what is the signature dish?
Oh, that's amazing. That's interesting. What is it called? Hot Mess Express? I mean, signature dish, fried rice.
Love it.
Yeah.
Is there a food you always eat on your birthday?
I often eat lobster. My birthday is late July.
Nice.
So I like having a sort of New England style, just a quick boiled lobster with drawn butter, corn on the cob, like a panzanella, and a bumpy cake.
Oh, what's that?
A bumpy cake is a Michigan specialty. It's a devil's food cake with buttercream bumps piped across the top and then a fudge frosting over top.
Very nice.
And I love a bumpy cake.
Very nice. Because you were saying about lobster in New England. They're super cheap, right, in the summer? Because
in the summer they're super cheap. I mean, I went to visit a friend outside of Boston once, and you go into the grocery store and there's just a giant tank of lobsters, and you can pick one out, and they're like $4.99. We'll steam your lobster while you wait, and they will cook it for you while you go finish your grocery shopping, and then go pick it up, and you're like, I have a fresh lobster for under 10 pounds.
Just chew it up on the way home.
Yes.
Great.
It's so cheap, it's so good.
Right, do you have a food guilty pleasure?
Tootsie Rolls.
Oh yeah, go on, Tootsie Rolls.
Tootsie Rolls.
I've heard of these.
No one likes a Tootsie Roll but me.
Wait, somebody's keeping them alive.
Someone's keeping them alive. I love a Tootsie Roll. I'm not a sweets person, but especially in law school, I found myself eating a lot of Tootsie Rolls while I studied. And there's something they're a little bit chewy. They're a chocolate, chewy, almost a taffy. But definitely made with like a lot of corn syrup and probably fake chocolate. I don't know. But they're really difficult to find now. I found this out because when I was pregnant, I asked my sister to bring me some from the US, and she had to go downtown Manhattan to like Economy Candy on the Lower East Side, which has like a lot of old fashioned candies still there, because you can barely like find these things anymore, except for on Halloween. They're in all those like grab bags. And this year we were in New York for Halloween, and I stole all of my son's Tootsie Rolls. I was like, I'll take that one and that one and that one.
How big are they?
You can either get a tiny little one that's like 1.5 inches long, or like longer, kind of fatter ones.
I think that's the one I've seen.
And you can tear them off with
Yeah.
your teeth. I mean, my husband, again, British people love candy,
Yeah.
right? And British people love chocolate. And my husband is like the biggest chocolate candy lover, and he tasted a Tootsie Roll, and he was like, "You've got to be kidding me, Anna. This is disgusting."
Oh no, now I want to try one. But I'm going to go to like the Candy Kingdom or whatever.
Yeah, I mean, I love a Tootsie Roll, and like, honestly, no one does.
Give it a go. Right, we're going to move on to quick fire questions. So, ready?
Ready.
Best kitchen tip you've ever been given?
Clean your kitchen.
If you could only eat one cuisine for the rest of your life, what would it be?
Chinese.
What ingredient is the biggest waste of money?
Caviar.
Worst thing you've ever eaten?
Mushrooms.
Your signature can't be bothered meal?
Chicken stir fry.
Favorite midnight snack?
Popcorn.
What food should have its own national holiday?
Popcorn.
What's your go-to hangover food?
Fried noodles.
What food did you hate as a kid but now love?
Carrots.
But if you could invent a new crisp flavour, what would it be?
Ooh, sriracha.
Name a fictional character you'd love to have dinner with.
A fictional character I want to have dinner with, like Oliver Twist. I'll
Right,
give him some more.
Final question, starter, main or dessert?
Maine.
Oh, that's 1 minute, 2 seconds. That's good.
Yeah?
Right, we have our final question
All
for you
right.
now, which is not quick fire.
Okay.
And it's a term, not us as a brand, which is, what does good food mean to you?
I think good food means something that satisfies your appetite as well as your like soul. Something that really, you can eat something that tastes good, but you forget it, 10 minutes later. And you can eat something that fills you up, but you don't care. I mean, a protein bar, like whatever. But something that really can give you more than just nutrition and personal satisfaction. Heart and soul, all and stomach.
Fabulous. Thank you so much. And thank you so much for coming in today.
Fictional character?
I know.
What the heck?
Oliver Twist. That's the one people always go for when they can't think
That's
of
all I
someone.
can think of was food. I'm like,
Never
I'll
even
feed
in my
him.
mind.
I don't think I've read Oliver Twist.
It's because you're American.
I don't know who would be a fictional character. Who would you have?
Who would I have? I would have Samantha from Sex and the City. Or
I was
that.
thinking in books.
Like
I guess she's in a book. That one.
Fictional character, someone
I
that's
was
not
just
real.
thinking.
Maybe she's real to you.
She's real to me. I lived that life. Thank you, Sam.
Thank you.
This is fun.
Thank you for listening to this episode of the Good Food Podcast. For more recipes and inspiration, visit goodfood.com or download our app. Subscribers to the Good Food app via the App Store can listen to our podcast ad-free.